Welcome to Now Next Later for Monday, April 14th. We always give a few moments here at the beginning for the waiting room to transition to the live broadcast. Today, I'm excited to welcome Brock Cassidy, the Chief Revenue Officer at NewZip, along with Robbie, my co-host from time to time. Sasha couldn't be with us today, so Robbie decided to strap in for another episode of Now Next Later.
Literally and figuratively.
Thanks for being here, Robbie, and glad to have you, Brock.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So for everybody joining, we really appreciate it when you join live. We open up the Q&A. There's a Q&A function and there's the chat function. I watch both. Please put your questions in real time and we'll make sure we get those to Brock or Robbie. I'm guessing mostly Brock. But today's topic is lead gen, specifically online lead gen. And if we get a chance to go even more specific than that, Brock, I'd really like to talk about the differences between purchase and refi as you think about the lead gen environment. I think when a lot of people hear lead gen, I would guess in our industry, the two things that pop into their head are call center refi and trigger lead. And in this case, trigger lead legislation, because that's the thing everybody's talking about these days. But
Sure.
it seems like most of the lead gen world kind of goes to either call center refi or trigger leads. And so today we kind of want to flip that as we do on Now Next Later and talk what else is going on in lead gen, what else should we know about, and then as I said, specifically purchase. So again, thanks for being here. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll just kick it off. Looks like everybody's in from the waiting room. So we'll kick it off with this, Brock. How would you describe current trends in lead gen today? I know you've been at some conferences recently. Maybe kick us off between that and what NewZip does. What are you seeing out there in lead gen today?
Yeah, it's still where we sit in lead gen's kind of interesting. NewRes kind of sits as like a strategic partner next to a lot of people that are either buying leads, generating their own leads. In some cases, we're helping them power the campaigns. But I'm kind of like maybe for better and worse, like a click away from some of the conversations. So I had an interesting time at LeadsCon. It was cool. Yeah, I think there's a ton of so a lot of people were saying, like the trigger lead bill, fell apart late last year, early this year, I guess. Some of the one-to-one consent stuff fell apart late last year, early this year, administration change timeline. A lot of the LeadsCon conversation, at least, was really around that stuff's still going to come. That stuff is still pushing the industry in the right direction. It's not, there's always going to be like black hat or gray hat or whatever lead gen, but that really wasn't what it was about. I think people have kind of accepted you don't build a sustainable business by, trying to cut the corners a little bit longer until that happens. I'm sure people have, I'm sure people do. But that's not what larger lenders that are building out a direct consumer arm are trying to have as their partner, right? That's not who's getting on stage at LeadsCons. It's not a how to cut corners and make as much money as you can in the next month conversation. There are a lot of really good conversations around how to enhance, how to get leads, in quality one-to-one or one to a couple consent, where the consumer opts in to hear from maybe two or three different lenders on the lending trees, MRCs of the world. But a lot of it was really around the tech, around sort of like the infrastructure of what happens once you get a lead. So the panel I was on specifically was around telephony advancements, and how to build more trust with phone calls at a time where phone call trust has never been lower. That was interesting. We can get into that if you want. There was a lot around enhancing the leads that you get, with things like additional household information, additional phone numbers, additional retargeting efforts towards the leads you buy. So yeah, it was more that direction. It was more, it's really a techie conference, not like a pure media conference. And the vast majority of the exhibitors were some spin on AI for lead nurture, AI for expanding your existing lead gen, AI for enhancing your existing lead gen, things like that.
Hey, so
Yeah.
well, I want to jump in here. I'm going to completely upstage Jeremy real quick.
Perfect.
The right now is that Rocket and Redfin. There's stuff with rumors about Zillow and Loan Depot in the news. That this is the now. This is the now.
Yeah.
This is right now.
Yeah, it's not the later.
How do you view things? Should people be scared? Is the sky kind of fall? Are we going to see the demise of smaller IMBs? I don't want to sound like Chicken Little. I don't think local originators are ever necessarily going to go away. I think there's always going to be demand for that. But in terms of how lead gen works with Rocket now having access to 1 in 6 consumers in America, this is a drastic shift. I mean, like I'm still trying to make sense of what it means for the industry as we move forward.
Yeah. I mean, Jeremy probably has as much or more to say about that than I do. But from what I saw, it's just been a call to arms where, if you want to do any lead gen, you have to up your game. If you want to, just be comfortable in the spot that you're in, you have to up your game a little bit. So whether it's solutions like around true lead gen, around lead nurturing, like the FinLockers and HomeBots of the world, things like that. Or whether it is all the way, down to like strategic partners, like what NewZip does of real estate partnerships. So I think lenders heard that call to arms and are like, hey, Rocket's buying, 50% of the leads out between Rocket and Loan Depot. They're probably buying 50, 60, 70% of the leads out there from the traditional sources. At least that's what the numbers we heard in the past. I don't know how that's changed recently, but it's been but I actually think it's encouraging that people, I don't think it's skies falling. I think it's like I better, I'm in the driver's seat of my own business and I better drive. Like it's not time to sit in the parking lot any longer and see what happens. I heard 2 or 3 different lead sellers, lead providers say they sold more leads to more different lenders this quarter than all of last year, both in terms of lender count and in terms of volume. So I think it's just I think call to arms. I think everyone's trying to up their budgets and compete.
Yeah, so it sounds like nobody's doing nothing. You have to commit to how am I going to compete? How am I going to expand up funnel? Because I think the Rocket Redfin thing is really an up funnel question. When I was there, one of the conversations I remember pretty vividly was an innovation, meeting where the CEO of Rocket Mortgage was essentially like, look, we bought every lead in America. Okay, now what? Assume we can buy every lead in America. Now what do we do? What do we do with those leads? So to your point, it took a few years, I think, to get kind of mass adoption. But now what I mean by mass adoption of the strategy is, all right, not only do I have to identify these leads, I got to identify them with some added capability, some added value proposition, or some added data to know that they're actually going to be a good ROI for me. And if I don't have one of those 3, I'm totally lost today. So if you don't have one of those 3, you're totally lost. But assuming you have either a new way to go up funnel, a new way to add a value proposition in that nurturing kind of thing, or to say this actually fits my particular demographic or my particular business model.
Yeah, I'd say more conversations that I overheard than any other was around upping your contact rate for the leads you're getting, upping your branding, for those outreaches. So is email providers, telephony providers, social media partners, the Snapchat and like Meta and all these companies were there in force talking about how to build more trust with the leads that you're buying. Yeah, it's like sort of a trust game. Assume everyone's getting the lead now, like play the trust game.
Yeah, that's a great observation. So let's dig into that for a second, Brock. I'm thinking of like what WebMD did to doctors. And what I mean by that is they started seeing all these people walking into their offices and going, I must have this. I must have this. And the doctor being like, all right, maybe. I get a sense, especially from younger home buyers, that it's like ChatGPT said this, ChatGPT said this, and loan officers and lenders are now dealing with that to have somebody walk in and be like, hey, this is what AI said. Is that right? Is that true? Is that kind of where we're headed here with these big AI players that you just named getting into the, not getting into the game, they're in the game, but trying to build these journeys?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'm honestly not really an expert on that specific piece, like the social media piece and like the big tech company positioning piece, but they were there and they were, everything's a little more industry agnostic than it used to be, right? That's the thing about Leads. It's not a mortgage conference. there's 4 or 5 different breakout sessions for like auto lead gen, for mortgage lead gen, for insurance lead gen, 1 or 2 others, I think. Maybe just consumer lending. So what was maybe jarring to myself, and certainly to anyone that's been going to mortgage conferences specifically for most of their career, is it wasn't a mortgage conference. It was a tech conference that mortgage was one of the topics, and it sounded just the same as the other topics. It sounded just the same as consumer lending topics. It sounded just the same as everything else. And I think that's the strategy from the tech side.
So, sorry, I want to speak John here. I'm sitting outside here in San Diego. There's an earthquake, and I just looked it up.
Oh,
because I started going like this. 6.2 magnitude earthquake here in San Diego. Sorry to interrupt the broadcast. People
well,
are
no,
like,
that could be a little bit.
evacuating the building is jarring.
That is disorienting. So, yeah, if you need to go find safety, let us know. We will carry you. You are doing fine. Okay.
Well,
we're good.
Do you need
We're gonna
belt
keep
back on or what?
keep it rolling.
For anyone watching from San Diego, be safe. I hope this breaking news helps you prepare slightly. Not often Now Next Later gets to break actual news.
6.2 magnitude earthquake. That's a pretty big deal. Holy smokes.
That's serious. Yeah.
So one of the things that Brock, you're talking about is I need to understand how I'm going to compete either by buying leads or moving up funnel. And then there's the how. I'm going to do this, and here's how I'm going to do it. And you mentioned a couple of different things. You mentioned telephony phone strategies and that they are increasingly distrusted or not as effective as they used to be. You mentioned AI voice, and then you mentioned nurture, just kind of bigger picture. So walk through a little bit of if you were thinking about nurture as the overall strategy and then those other things as the how do you guys look at it at NewZip? And then how do you see it evolving in lead gen specifically?
I mean, I'm sure there's a component of like what you focus on, you find thing. At NewZip, this is a huge part of what we've pivoted and expanded our business into. We used to just kind of do agent matching. A lot of people do agent matching. We had a few specific twists, but by far our biggest twist today is that we do a ton of the lead nurturing and the outreach and the lead vetting and all that process on behalf of the lenders we work with. So we were out there, Audie, our CEO and co-founder, and myself were out there. And we really were looking for that. I was on a panel with TransUnion, as well as some folks that are affiliated with Freedom Mortgage that are building out their new direct consumer I don't know, arm. And so it's kind of a cool panel where we were kind of a case study. There was a mortgage case study, and it was around how it really was around how bad telephony outreach is when you're an unknown brand like NewZip was a couple of years ago, and you show up on someone's caller ID, they're just not taking, or if you don't show up on their caller ID at all, you're just not getting the phone answered. And so there's a lot of trust-based conversation going on right now with branded caller ID. There's even TransUnion was using us as a case study for this product where you can even push your logo through and build trust that way. So they see your logo by email, they see your logo on your website, they see your logo by phone, and they answer the phone. And for NewZip specifically, we were actually a case study for them where when we blended some of those products into our call center, we saw a 25% increase in answer rate on per individual call period across the whole top of funnel, medium funnel, end of funnel. 25% more of our calls were answered when we paid for some of those more advanced trust-based branding products from, in this case, TransUnion.
So let's pause there for just let's just pause there for just a second. So if I get a lead online from either buying it from one of the aggregators, one of the lead gen providers, or by generating it in my business through my marketing, my calling, my bankers, there still has to be some outreach to turn that sort of lead into a customer. And what we're saying is like the number one thing is I'm not picking up the phone if I don't recognize the number. And that's not just the sort of mid-40s guy here. That is everybody. Everybody's just, if I don't recognize the number, I'll let it go to voicemail. And so the more the lead gen community, vendors and service providers realize this, now it's like, well, we got to push a branded number. We got to push information data to the iPhone, to the Android so that we know who's calling. That's kind of threshold at this point. This is still in the now bucket.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten to next. This is literally, you got to be doing this right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so so we were a case study there. So again, like that was top of mind for me because I was on a stage talking about it. But there were really similar things around email outreach, around retargeting. That was the whole conversation is again sort of like trust based. Getting whether you do use the AI voice tools, whether you do use things to capture people directly from your website and turn them into leads. However you capture someone at the beginning, it's maintaining consistency and trust throughout was, I don't know, 80% of the conversation I heard. It's kind of branded as a conference where it's just a bunch of people like hawking leads, like buying and selling leads, reselling leads. That was there, but it was 80% around what you just laid out, the building the trust and building the tech stack, marketing stack, whatever you want to call it, nurture stack maybe. Might be the first
Yeah.
time anyone ever said those words, but yeah, like the nurture stack to bring these leads into actually becoming borrowers and clients.
That's okay. That's what we do here on Now Next Later. Maybe Nurture Stack becomes a thing. We'll find out. We'll
Yeah.
work on it and we'll find out. I think one of the things that was interesting to me, because I still want to stay in this category of now for a second, although this starts to bridge us a little bit into next, around AI voice in particular. And in the fall, I was fortunate to attend a Lending Tree Summit, lead gen, probably the lead gen market leader. And we saw some AI voice demos. And we've heard a lot about other providers since. And it seems to me that the number one thing, there's two things it seems like everybody's really focused on in this category with AI voice. One is I can get a warm lead to a banker rather than having a mortgage loan officer warm up that lead themselves. And sometimes people were doing that with human call centers, just your typical, hey, we're a outsourced call center. We'll make the call. If somebody picks up the phone, we'll transfer to a licensed banker as quickly as possible. It's literally just saving the banker
Sure.
having to listen to rings or leave voicemails. And then, so that's one. And then I think what we're hearing is you can replace that with AI voice. Just get them on the phone, quickly transfer it to your actual licensed banker. And then the other one seems to be frequently asked questions. There's like a number you can call on a website or in a CRM where you can kind of ask any mortgage question. And the thing is like, well, here's how much down you need for this type of mortgage. Were there any other AI voice applications? Those are the two Now Next Later has identified. Were there any other you saw or any other you can think of?
Are we in now or are we in next?
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's the beauty of this show. You're in both at the same time here in the mortgage industry.
Okay, so now is like what they were saying. NewZip still uses people for all this, by the way. Part of
Yeah.
our branding to our lenders, so that we're being careful. But the story at LeadsCon is everyone should be having AI at least do the dialing and patch it to a live person when it's answered, confirmed, ready to talk to someone. So basically what you just laid out, whether it's a licensed person or otherwise, but don't even have a person do the dialing is kind of the story that was told over and over on stage. So I guess that's now, right? Or close to now. But I think what was interesting to me in turn, you bring it into next or later, was I just heard a product development cycle type of conversation I've never heard before, where the AI voice agents, there were dozens to hundreds of them out there. VCs have put a lot of money behind them. It's also gotten relatively cheap to develop using all the new AI tools out there, it sounds like. I heard people saying things like, I demoed product A 2 weeks ago and it was ahead of product B. I saw it today and product B leapfrogged them. It was in days and weeks of adding myriad new features, especially around AI voice, around AI in general, certainly, but around AI voice. I never heard people talk like that. It's like you used to hear someone was like, oh yeah, their tech's a year and a half ahead of us, but we're gaining, but we're catching up, or we're 2 years ahead of them. So like, we got to keep building. This was in days. This was people, this was an expert third party people, opining on it. Like, hey, this product was better a week ago. This one's better this week. It was nuts.
Yeah, that is. I think that's a really interesting aspect to AI that, we've heard about or people have warned us about, I guess is the best way to put it. But watching these things build upon themselves, when I talk to Mike Yu from Vesta, it's like exponential. The way he describes is the learning, the building is exponential. And that kind of goes to what you're saying. So
Yeah.
those
But I
are
think,
very,
but I didn't really answer the use case. So I think the next use case that people are trying to think about is like at least handling customer service, at
yeah.
least handling FAQs plus. You mentioned FAQs, but let's say also like for a servicer handling, you know, payment conversations, or things like that. So I think it's like divide up, you know, similar to automation, you know, 5 years ago, right? When you and I both worked at Rocket, Jeremy, it was like it's like that, but instead of it being rules based, it just does it for you. You don't have to come up with the rules in a boardroom. The AI will work on it for you. The ideas are basically like, let's phase out task one, then task two, then task three. But I guess, but apparently sometimes the AI tells you you don't even need to do task two because, you know, we're just going to skip ahead to task three. So there was a lot of conversation around that, whether it was around lead scoring, whether it was around lead routing, whether it was around actual like outreach processes, nurture processes, was like
Mhm.
some of the things you're doing just don't work, and AI will start telling you that. Or so, or you know, it's like you may have spent years developing this proprietary process, and it might just not work. There's a company called ProPair out there that does lead scoring. That I went to their workshop. It was like a 2 hour workshop where they had us like work through actual use cases. And you know, NewZip may or may not end up using ProPair, but it was a cool exercise. And it was like, and basically boiled down to like, who came up with your lead grading? And it was like, yeah, yeah, like personally, like either
I
I
did.
did
Right.
or this or the founder of the company did. And
Well,
it's gone up.
Even Rocket not that long ago was building their own internal, models for lead
Yeah.
scoring.
And who gets to decide
Probably
what it is?
still
I
are.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Who decides what matters? I mean, I think that this is an interesting aspect of like data science. 5 years ago, everybody was hiring data scientists. It's almost as if like we've heard that quiet down a bit because people have their data scientists who are either using these AI tools or not. And so this leaves us with two categories we wanted to hit. You mentioned nurture, and you mentioned data augmentation, consumer data. And we had a question come in the chat from Alan about in the Q&A tool about data augmentation. So let's go in that order, nurture and then data augmentation. So now we have one foot in next, and we're going to put one foot in later at the same time to your comment earlier. When you hear about nurture, it sounds like what you're saying is quite a bit of nurture today can be done with technology, is being done with technology. And you have an app or you have a journey, and then you add in points of contact that matter, milestones or other moments for the consumer that NewZip's calling them regularly or someone should be. Can you talk about the relationship between the app-based almost like CRM or tool calculator based journeys and the phone call based journeys, particularly in purchase? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, for purchase, no one goes through today. Someone will tell me that it happened once maybe, but no one's going through a full AI process for purchase, like, right. Even
Right.
in next, I don't think, later maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, it's you can have all the AI voice layered in, you can have all the app-based experience layered in. There's a huge difference when you go out and look at houses. I think like refi will move a lot faster here, just like refi has with everything else, with like platform tech and with you know, the ability to get offers. It's a lot easier to get a refi offer than a purchase offer because it's contingent on all these things about the property. I think it'll be the same thing here in a lot of ways, but yeah, what we do really is kind of put a concierge in the middle. At NewZip, what we do on behalf of our lenders is put a concierge in the middle. And it's like, hey, you have a lender and you have an agent, and you also have, and maybe that part will become AI over the years, over the months, over the days. The cycle's fast.
Yeah.
Where this concierge level, like just place to get the advice, to understand where you are in the roadmap, to understand the how all the different parties benefit you, or what, you know, what they're going to charge you, things like that. I think just getting like it could be a weird twist, but maybe people end up trusting the AI a lot, to be like an unbiased, like not commission oriented, like advisor, right? NewZip does that today with licensed real estate agents who are in our call center, who are kind of sitting over the network and playing a client service role. But it's those types of use cases that I think are interesting. It's not going to like kick out the local real estate agent in any way. That's super necessary. Maybe some of the tasks will be simplified, but you're still going to need help going out to see houses and things like that, negotiating. But yeah, that's where I see that for purchase. I mean, I think refi will move a lot faster. Refi, we've said this before many times, Jeremy, like refi is much more of like a math problem, right? It's like put the best offer and get the advice you
Yeah.
want and go.
For everyone watching, that's a good foreshadow for next week. We will have Nate Denherder from Ardley on. Ardley is a software that does exactly that for refi of your portfolio servicing book. So check in for that.
But
Back to this.
it won't be three white guys. We'll have normal Sasha back, because I'm getting tired of these webinars where it's just a bunch of white dudes in the mortgage industry.
We have invited a lot of
What are you guys
diversity
doing
on
inviting
Now
them?
Next Later. Now Next Later is a champion, by the way, for the diversity of the mortgage industry, and any brilliant people who want to come on here of any type, come on, please.
I'm working on my Dave Savage LinkedIn pose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll fight the pose.
That was good.
So let's go into
Brock, you'll see I add nothing to this show. Jeremy's like, why did I invite him? But I'm here for
it says Chrisman commentary
you broke
behind us. You get to come on. You get to
report.
come on whenever you want. It has your name on it. Brock, we'll end on the future facing data augmentation. One of the questions that came in was about, are people being tracked online such that they can actually get a cell phone number from web traffic? I'm going to take that very specific question and kind of zoom out a bit. We know that people have data sources that you can buy, that you can augment around. So to Alan's answer, I'll answer it and then I'll throw it to you, Brock, which is you need to buy several different databases and merge them, but you can increasingly do one-to-one style identification if you know certain attributes and activities over here, and you already have some of the other data sources to match them. But it's very difficult to match sort of website traffic to personally identifiable address and cell phone in particular. What's more likely is that you actually get the personally identifiable information from something and then watch their traffic. So it doesn't usually go traffic to cell phone number. It actually goes cell phone number and address because of some app, service, or site, and then I watch you browse for however long before I reach out to you. That tends to be how it works. And so I was curious, you mentioned data augmentation. What else do you know about the household? What else do you know about the consumer? Can you just project out, where does that go from here? What is the forward-facing kind of lead gen aspects that you're imagining when you said that earlier?
Yeah, well, 10 seconds on the now, I guess, of it is, yeah, it is, you can't always get a cell phone number, but you can definitely get to any browser related, are you logged into Google? You can get an email. Are you logged into LinkedIn? You can get a LinkedIn link. That's actually what we do. Anyone that hits the NewZip website, I get their LinkedIn URL if they're signed into LinkedIn. It's like, yeah, cool, I'll reach out. And so that's like keep everything on its own. That's like, you're on the internet, you're browsing, we can get your internet stuff. Anyone can get that. But yeah, the later of it, there's a lot around consent. There's a lot around how you own the data, if you own the data, how the consumer consents to give you the data, if you consent to get the data. There was a cool conversation at LeadsCon that I'll just use as a quick example, where someone asked, actually my panel, if I buy a lead that is one person and one phone number, can I augment their other phone numbers? Answer, depends on the language, depends on the lead provider. Fine. Yeah, dodgy. But basically, yes. But you can't, as I heard it, as I understand it, I'm no lawyer, you can't sort of like go to the other one, if it's a husband, you can't get the wife. If it's the kid, you can't get the parent, whatever it is. You can't go to the whole household level. Right now, you can get that data, but you don't have the rights to contact those people. If you remember, like 6 or 7 years ago, everyone was selling the life events data. I asked a few people about that, like marriages, divorces, kids, college graduations, etc., job changes. I asked a bunch of people at LeadsCon about that, and they were like, "Oh, that's dead. We have way better signals now." Now it's like we don't even know what the signal is. We just know it's a call this person. It's like AI, right? It's not that they went through a divorce, call them, it's call them. And so I think that's probably where it's going, is that it's all this mashed together data, some of which you can't specifically get, some of which you can specifically get, but you can buy the signals. You can buy the list, those kind of things.
Jeremy's told me before, he searches Facebook Marketplace by sizes of wedding dresses. So you figure out they're selling it, so they're single, and then you can sort by size in the neighborhood. You can also see, so smart. There's a lot of ways you can get people's data.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I've told you that.
in a cat there.
Yeah, I've told you that. So I'll end on this because I love what innovation can bring in terms of the inspiration and spark for new ideas. I mean, one of the things I'm really confident in that I haven't seen a lot of people do yet is just be very explicit, very transparent with a subset of consumers to say, I can bring you into the revenue model if we work together with your data. If you give me all your data, I can give you a whole bunch of other values or valuable things that you want. And I seem to have that relationship with Google. It seems like every time Google offers me something, I buy it. More cloud storage, YouTube TV, the NFL Sunday ticket. I can't even at this point know for sure how much I'm paying Google a month, but it keeps working for me and I like it, right? So I would suggest, and anyone who wants to talk about this more, please reach out to me, which is, why aren't we more explicit with consumers? Why don't we just say, hey, we're going to track you everywhere you go. We'll track you at open houses. We'll track you wherever, because we can actually make this super valuable for both of us,
Jeremy,
if you're in my ecosystem.
and maybe I'll add my first meaningful contribution to today. I was thinking this weekend, we've gotten to a place where algorithms are too good. And in regard to your point, ignorance is bliss to a little degree. Sure, I'm okay with you tracking me as long as I'm not like so aware of you tracking. My algorithm on my Instagram got so good that I turned off my microphone because I was tired of the targeted ads it was sending me. It felt like an invasion of privacy. So I think there is a point at which we could go too far, the pendulum could swing back. So just be careful of that out there.
Agreed. And I think one of the things I'm always getting at is like, how many consumers do you think are in the category that would want that? And what you're really doing is just trying to understand, does that give me enough market share for it to make sense? I think so, but of course, not everybody's going to want that. You're going to really have to know which market share does.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a few companies, Rocket's the easy example, right? That's running really aggressively down that path. They rolled out a credit card, Rocket Money, all these other things that they can listen to. The listening post, vernacular is one I like. They get all these listening posts of what people do, and the people opt into it. They save money and get deals and get whatever. So I think there'll be a lot more of that. I think there'll be a lot more third parties offering that. Rocket built a lot of it themselves or bought a lot of it themselves. Getting people into your ecosystem will kind of be the name of the game, I think. So there's a lot of ways to do that, though.
Well, on that note, that's a perfect way to end. We will continue to have you back and have other guests come and talk to us about lead gen, about getting consumers into your world, as you just said. So that's the key, however you choose to do it. Brock, thanks for joining us on Now Next Later.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Robbie. We appreciate all your contributions are meaningful. Don't ever
stay
let
safe.
anyone tell
Watch out
you.
for earthquakes.
Yeah. Careful in San Diego, everyone. Thank you. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.